appreciate your effort in making it. Today I will not go too deep because some of you were not able to make it. So I just want to introduce the course so everyone has a kind of an idea. I can see most of you took the earlier course. There are some students who have not. So for you this will be kind of familiar. So let me start with the syllabus. And as usual, we start with the title of the course, Web Development. And you can see from the title, it is a bit different than other courses you took in the master. We will drive it very much practical, although there will be some aspects, some research aspects. So maybe the practical part is almost 80%, and the rest, let's say 20. This will include like exploring trends and future and current research issues in web development. But the 80% will be more hands-on development. Now, there will be some kind of imbalance, but in the beginning. But I hope that students that do not have web development skills, that they will pick up and they will need to do more effort. So it's a bit of challenge not to make students who have prior background the course too boring or repeat for them. At the same time, the students who don't have any background, we have to also accommodate them. And I have a plan for that, and your suggestions are also very welcome to address this challenge. Okay, so from the title you can see it's very much a practical course. When we say development is design and developing and coding and testing and deploying applications, web applications. Now for web, we all know web. What is the web? Let's just try to define it. So at least we have an idea what the course will be about. So what is the web? What is your definition? Very simple one. Don't tell me it's the place where we spend 90% of our time or more. Yes, please.
It's like a place where many resources all over the world are put on the internet.
Yes, very good. So basically, you can think of it as a lot of resources out there, and they are interconnected. This is very important. That's why when we start, we find it's very hard to stop, because it's all interconnected. You can start and you never finish. Luckily, we have some kind of some some other commitments. Otherwise, we will kind of keep going. So simple definition, yes, as you said, is interconnected resources that are globally distributed. And these resources, so a resource is very good. A resource is the term used in the web, because this is the most generic thing you can define what the web is made up of. So what do we mean by a resource? What is a resource? Yes, thank you. It could be any kind of content. So a resource, you can think of it as a kind of basically abstract. It's a generalization of all type of content that is available on the web. Content and services, because when the web started, people talk more about content. And content here means, for example, HTML pages, for example, images, videos. What else? Documents in different formats, documents, in different formats such as XML, JSON, and other formats. So when the web started, it started as set of interconnected content. But more and more, we are moving from the web of content to the web of services. Because initially, this was more provided for humans to use. So before the web, if you want to know more about Qatar University, you have to drive. There wasn't even Shamal there. You have to drive through this little road in the backside, and then you arrive here, and you go to the registration or administration, and they will give you some printed document. And then when the web came, all those content about, for example, Qatar University and its mission and vision and all the information about it is available as a web content on their website. Now, we are moving more towards services where we can basically go online and do, for example, online banking, or for you do like student like registration of courses, payment of your fees, checking your transcript. And these services, sorry, let me, okay. Luckily, I always have the backup. Okay, these services, the difference here is these services could be either used by like people, like human users, or they could be used by other programs or by other systems. And this is a huge development on the web. So initially the web was for people to use, for content, human-friendly content, a bunch of text and images and videos, and they are interlinked, and you can browse and go through one document. You jump from one document to another, and you navigate from one document to another. And it was primarily for people's use. Then with the development of the web, developers saw the opportunity that the web could be extended to cater for programs, where programs or computers can also go to the web, either to get some data or to request some processing and so on. And this started this huge movement called services. So here when I say web development, so it's under this umbrella there are many things going on. So first, when I say web development is how do I create content for users? There are some standards. You cannot just, yes, you can make it a plain text web, it's fine, plain text documents. But you know, like our users are a bit spoiled and they want colors and nice layout and so on. So plain text, like just using your notepad and type in the content, is not very friendly for the users, is not very attractive and not very suitable for them. So we have some technologies that will help us to make our content kind of has some kind of structure and some layout with some nice formatting to make it easier for the users to basically make use of. So in the content, the main standard, and by the way, the main standard to write HTML to write web content is HTML. So it's a language for basically structuring your content. When you create a page, you can tell the browser that this is a header, this is a paragraph, this is a table, this is a menu. You can tell the web what is the role of each part of the page. And in the HTML, it allows you to embed the images, it allows you to embed videos onto your page. And this HTML is a standard language all people and all browsers agree on this standard. And we will see it very quickly. We will not dive deeper into this. And in here, HTML went through many versions. The latest one and the widely used, and it has a lot of people talking about it, is HTML5. This is the latest version, and this is where we will focus on. Now, to make the web a little bit, to make the page aesthetically appealing and nice and easy to deal with, to make use of, you need to use another language for beautifying, if you want, the page, called CSS. And we will also, some of you will be familiar with this. It's a quick revision for them. Others, you will see it for the first time. So in all cases, some of you will need to be a bit patient in the beginning because we have to bring everybody to the same level. But don't worry, I'll try my best not to have a lot of repetitions from. I'm talking about people who took 356. This is an undergraduate course at Qatar University. So those of you who took this, yes, they have a little bit of advantage, but as you will see shortly, there will be very little overlap after the first 2-3 weeks. Okay, it's a different way of delivering the course. Plus, there is more depth. Okay, so when I say web development, the first thing historically, and for many people still, they think of it as creating content, web content. And when you create this web content, you need to be familiar with these languages, well-known languages for creating content and formatting content, which is HTML and CSS. Now, for content, how many types of content we have? What are the two major types of content we have? Yes, we have static and we have dynamic. This is very important to understand. So when the web started, it started a static web. What does it mean by static? Sorry? Only read? Not necessarily. Yeah, very good. Yes, yes, please. Well, it doesn't get updated. Yeah. So usually when you hear this static and dynamic, there is the concept of time. But this is what differentiates this. Static means if you go to the page, unless assuming that static also, unless the human administrator or the caretaker of the content change it. Now, that's a different story. But assume they did not change it. Let's say they are, it's a night time, they are out of their offices, and the content is there. You go there, let's say it is 8 p.m., for example. 8 p.m., all the administrators and content managers of the website are not there. So if you go at 8 p.m. and refresh the page, and you go at 10 p.m. and you refresh the page, what do you think will happen? Same content. So if you visit it at different times, it's same content. Okay? Now, which means the content typically is in files and it does not get changed until some human goes there and changes it. That's a simple way of thinking about static content. Now, dynamic content, like if you go, for example, to Al Jazeera, you go at 8, and then you go at 8, like 5 minutes past 8. Is it exactly the same content? Most likely there is some new articles. Most likely there is something different. At least maybe the date and the time on the page has changed. Maybe the weather temperature has changed, or the top stories has changed. Maybe you will see some breaking news kind of panel there, for example. So is it a static page? Al Jazeera, is it a static page? Do you think somebody is sitting and editing the HTML pages as news comes? Definitely not. I don't think 99% of Al Jazeera people, they don't know even it. They have nothing to do with HTML. They don't pages. Okay, so from where these news articles are coming then, if they are not coming from static pages? But from some kind of data store. Yes. From some data store, could be a database or other files. But somehow dynamic means on the server side, there is some kind of program. There's some kind of program that generates the content. Can you see the difference? In here, this is human crafted content. And it doesn't change until that particular author of that content goes and changes it periodically. While dynamic, there's a program behind it. Whenever you go to the page, the program gets executed and the content gets generated. Are you following? So in the beginning, the beginner web developers in the past, they only need to worry about this part, which is the content, and knowing HTML to structure the page, and knowing CSS to make it nice, look nice, and knowing how to link or how to embed images and videos on the page. As the time progresses, a new challenge came. We don't want only static content. We also want dynamic content. And then the story becomes, it's a server-side programming. We have to write programs that is capable of generating HTML. Are you following? So you see, these two now are under the umbrella of web development. So we've seen so far, how many things we saw so far? Two. No, here, this is what I mean by the web development soup. There are a lot of skills and a lot of technologies. And you cannot just pick and choose. You have to use all of them. Okay? So that's why it is a bit challenging, because you need to know all these technologies and you need to be able to combine them to build the application you are requested to build. Is clear so far? So, sorry, you have a class here? Oh, sorry. Assalamu alaikum. You have a class here? Yeah. You have a class?
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Let's just check this class. Because the system where we book is down. We couldn't check it.
When you take any other class, you have to check with the system.
Yeah, I checked. There is no. Okay, sorry, we have to move to the next door. Thank you. Just next door. Yeah, this. Yeah. Okay. Okay, let me. Okay. So, welcome back. Let us hopefully give you an idea about this, the content of the course. So let me just summarize what we have seen so far. So web is all about authoring or creating content, because we will be In most of our time when we deal with the web, we deal with it as typically as users. But of course, in this course, we will deal with it as developers. So we will be building resources, web resources. And we said that web resources, in the past, they used to be mainly content. But now we're moving more and more towards services. Okay? Now, in content, we've seen that we have static content and we have dynamic content. Okay? In the static content, basically, as a web developer, you need to be familiar with some languages like HTML and CSS, the main ones. HTML to define the structure of the page, and the CSS is to format the page. Then, as the web developed, we don't want to rely on authors to go and update the content to refresh the content of the page. We want to write programs that allow us to create content, web content from programs. So people started with programs that existed when this movement started. Maybe whoever knows C, for example, or C++, they try to extend it, or they try to make use of it to write a program that generates HTML. But it is like not very healthy, not very eloquent, or not very neat solution, because you are mixing content with the computational logic. It is a big mess. And gradually, people started inventing languages that are specific to this purpose of creating dynamic content. And then a huge number of languages has emerged. And they are still very popular. Among them, the most popular is PHP, which stands for what? Hypertext something. Sorry? Something. I think it's, yeah, PHP. PHP hypertext preprocessor. Okay, hypertext preprocessor. Okay, and then there are so many out there. Like there is, in the Microsoft world, there is active server pages. There is Perl, Python, so many languages. Some of them existed before this dynamic web content generation came to existence. Some of these languages existed and they were extended. For example, Perl. Perl was more a scripting language that has been taken advantage of to generate dynamic content. And then, as this matures, there are the mainstream languages went into this space. Like Java, for example. Java has a bunch of technologies that allow us to generate dynamic content, but in a nice way, without mixing the computation with the content. We separate them. We separate the computation logic from the user interface or from the presentation logic. I will explain what this means. Some of you might not appreciate this much, but it's fine at this stage. So those of you who took CMPS3, Okay, those of you who took 356, they know this story. What is the Java offerings to create dynamic content and even to create services? Yes, there are many technologies here, like servlets. Started with servlets, and then servlets. In servlet, the problem is still mixing content with the logic. So they invented JSP. JSP focuses on the presentation or the view of the web application, and you put in servlets. And then they came up with other technologies like JSF and so on. Okay, but we will not see any of this. We will see a different way of doing it, a more modern way of doing it. Okay. Of course, Microsoft cannot keep itself away from this space, so they have a very good offering. They call it first in the old days it's called a server page. All these technologies, this one survives, still very, very famous, very widely used. We will not see it, unfortunately, but it has a lot of competition with what we will see in this course. So the problem with these technologies is as I mentioned, is they mix the presentation logic with the computation logic. So you have one program that has the code, for example, to connect to a database, read from a database, go through the results, and generate HTML, all in one program. Okay. So these more modern technologies, like either Java-based or .NET-based, in .NET they took this ASP and they call it ASP.NET. And in here they have the separation. You separate the view or the page from the computation logic. And then we will discuss why this is very, very important. Okay? And then this architecture that we will see in this course called MVC started driving the web development, where frameworks or development tools or development technologies came to force you kind of to separate your model which does the computation from the view which presents the content to the users and the user interface to the users, and the controller which does the coordination. If you have a multi-step process, the controller will take you through those steps, for example. So the modern frameworks, web development frameworks, they really follow this well-known pattern called MVC. That's why the ASP.NET, they have like a more advanced version called ASP.NET MVC. And this is what we will see partially in this course. And the latest version is version 6. Just to show you, this technology is very mature now. It went through a series of iteration. And it's to be taken very, very seriously because it's becoming open source, and it's now Microsoft is moving aggressively into pushing it to other platforms, not just Windows. So, and you will see compared to Java, Java is a bit defragmented. There are many offerings, many tools, many technologies out there, while in the Microsoft world, because it's controlled by one entity, there is more homogeneous story, not less defragmented. Plus, Microsoft is not like the old days. Now it is more open to the open source community and more open to the other platforms. So at many occasions, Microsoft took their own technologies, they throw it away, and they adopted an open source alternative. So, and for us, we will take this more as an example to illustrate how we develop this dynamic content using MVC architecture. Is clear so far? So we moved from static content to dynamic content. Dynamic content, many programming languages were suggested, and they all suffered from mixing computation with logic. And then gradually, as the technology matured, MVC became the standard way of building web applications with clear separation between the computation, the presentation, and the coordination. Is clear so far? And then this content continued for some time until programs and computers start to become jealous, and they say why people are enjoying the web and not us. So, and then the new movement started to make the web accessible programmatically, where you can write a program to interact with the web, either to provide, to call some functionality, or to retrieve or change some data that is stored on the web. And a huge movement started. So web development include building services. And we will see how we can build services and consume them from the client side. So from here, you can see on the web, the most common architecture on the web. What do we have on the web? When you are using the web, what do you need? You need a browser. You need a client. Although traditionally, and this even now, maybe 80%, maybe a little bit too much, maybe 70% is still browser-based, where you open the browser and interact with the web. But really, the apps that you are using, they all interact with the web. For example, Facebook app or Twitter app. Those are not browser. There is no browser. There is for example, a mobile application, but it interacts with the back-end server using services. Okay? So we have the client and we have the server. So all what I have been talking about so far is talking about the server side. You, as an author of content, you either provide static content or dynamic content, or you might be providing services so other application other than the browser can make use of your services. So far, as a web development, when I say web development, how many things you will need to develop, or how many things you will are included in this big umbrella of web development? We have the server side, which is authoring content, either statically or writing a program to generate the content. And then on the server side, what else we have? The services. We need to write services. So services, for now, you can think of them as web pages, but they don't give you this HTML or CSS. They give you other data format like XML or JSON. And we will see this in much more details. Okay? Now, so how the web works? What do we do? What do we do every day when we are using our browsers? Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. This is something I need to add before we go further. So every resource on the web has a unique identifier and unique address. So which is called the URL, a Uniform Resource Locator. And anything on the web, like if we go, for example, to qu.edu.qa as an example, okay? And if we go to, let me just, okay, so this is a page. It's made up of many resources. This is one page, but it has many resources. For example, there is the logo there. There is these banners here, content on the page. So every resource has an address. So if we try to see here, inspect this. Okay, let me see. Maybe this one is a bit hidden. Let me see if I can see this one. Okay, in a new page. Okay, for example, this image has a unique address. So if I know this address, I can get to that image without going to the whole page. This is fundamental concept on the web. Web is made up of resources, and each resource has a unique URL. So you interact with the resource. If you want to interact with the resource, you have to know the URL of that resource. Whether it is content or services. Services also have the same concept. A service is available at certain URL. Okay? And now, let me remind you, the content, the way you write the content is standardized. You cannot just write it the way you wish. The content itself is fine, but the way you structure it, the way you format it, you have to use a particular standard language. That's all people have agreed upon. Now the URL, again, the same thing. The URL, you cannot just write it the way you wish. There is a standard way for writing the URL. So you can see here the URL, although Firefox removes it, but really what is in here, there is HTTP. In the URL you have the protocol that you are using to communicate with the server side. There's a protocol followed by the server name, which is in this case qu.edu.qa. And the port, yes, and the port, which is typically 80. So if it is 80, you don't need to put the port because that is the default one. Followed by the path where that resource happened to be. Okay. Now in that path, what do we find in that path? So when we have a URL, which is as I said, it has the protocol followed by the server name, followed by the port, followed by the path. Now, at that path, on that particular server, what we will find? A resource. Thank you very much. A resource is either something static, content. There is a file. There is an image file. Like in here, is it dynamic or static? It's a static. It's not like every time there is some camera there and the lucky one that goes past maybe the QNB or message it, they will take a photo and show it on the web page. That will be dynamic. But in here it is static, isn't it? So this file, definitely it is a file on that server, on this path. Or sometimes if I go to the root URL, if I go to the root URL, okay, this is not static page. In fact, let me see what they are using. Let me see, maybe they are using PHP. So you can see here, PHP is still surviving. So PHP is basically a program where when we went to that URL, that index.php program was executed and the content was generated. Maybe some of the content came from database, some of it came from file system, maybe some of it came from other services, and all combined in one page and given back to you. Is clear? The idea is clear that we have content, either static or dynamic. And when we use dynamic content, we have to use one of these languages and technologies. And then this is mainly for people or human consumption. And this idea was extended further to cater for program-to-program communication, where a program can call another program over the web. And that is the idea of services. And all these resources, whether they are content or services, they have URLs. Is clear? Okay, good. Now, so let me now. So when I went to this web page, who is the client? Who is the client in this scenario? The browser. Very good. In this scenario, the browser is the client. Although the browser is gradually being taken over by applications, where you have, like especially in the mobile world, where you have mobile applications that you don't open through the browser. You have a dedicated application you open, and that application will talk to the server and to the services that are running on the server. Okay, so now for you, so here the client receives the HTML and the CSS and so on, and what the client does, what's the job of the client? Render. Thank you. Basically, this is the technical term. Render the content, like interpret the content, and interpret the instructions in the HTML and CSS. So HTML and CSS are not really programming languages, but you can think of them as instructions to the browser. Please make this text bold. Please make this one red, and this one blue, and this one underline, and so on, okay? And also you say, oh, by the way, this is a header, this is a body, this is a paragraph. So the browser will take this and interpret them and displays them. So it does not do too much compared to the server. The browser will say, please give me the page, give me a particular page. The server either reads it from the disk and say, here you are, or it runs the program, generates the content, and say, here is the result. So what we have here, there is the concept of request response. So really the web is the fundamental architecture of the web is, what is the architecture here? It's client-server architecture. The clients make requests, and the server generates response. And that's what you do all day. Send a request, get a response. Send a request, get a response. Now, definitely you can see here there is some communication going on, isn't it? There is some communication going on. And communication needs some kind of protocol, rules and protocols of communication. So, for example, when I ask a question, as a protocol, I should stop and give you the chance to think about it and maybe give an answer. So if I make a question and keep talking, I am basically violating the protocol, and no meaningful communication can take place, isn't it? So same thing here. Like between humans, there is a protocol of communication, and between systems, of course, there must be a protocol of communication. This is where this very important protocol called HTTP comes into the picture. So that's why when I go to a particular URL, I must specify what protocol I'm using to talk to this resource. And HTTP is the most widely used protocol out there on the web. And we will see more details about it, but for now, all I want you to keep in mind, the main architecture of the web is a client-server architecture. We have the server that provide the content, either static or dynamic, and also provide services. And we have a client that makes a request for those contents and services, and they get some response. And the communication is using a protocol called HTTP. Is so far clear? So as a web developer, you must understand HTTP and how HTTP works. Because as we move forward, you will see in the programming, when you are doing web programming, HTTP comes into play. So you must have a good understanding of it. So that's one of the things we will do in this course. A good understanding of HTTP protocol and how it is used when you are developing web applications. Okay. Now, when you look here, so far, sorry, let me just summarize. So far, as a web developer, you need to be able to create content and format that content. You need to be able to write programs that generate web content. You need to be able to write services that either provide some functionality or some content to other programs to make use of over the internet. You should be able to understand and make use of the communication protocol, which is HTTP. Is enough? Or more things as a web developer you need to know? More. Okay. Here. You see these nice things here? This nice navigation and some animation. See here? Okay. And so many, I'm sure you have seen much more sophisticated than this. So in here, this HTML and CSS are only there to present the content and to format it and put it in a nice structure for the user to make use of. Now, how do we make this navigation and this animation and this more interactive on the client side? What do we do? What is the technology responsible of this? That's another piece that you need to know. All these so far are like piece of cake, very easy, not a problem. Even non-programmers, sometimes they don't call themselves web programmers, but they call themselves web designers. They can do all of this, almost, at least for this content part. So HTML and CSS, even end users, they know it. It's not a problem. So the problem now is to make the page dynamic, to do some computation on the page, to do some interaction on the page. So to do that, what you need to know, JavaScript. So this language is #1 language on the web. It's driving the whole web, okay? And it's very important language. So that's another piece that we need to learn, and this course has a lot of focus on this language. Most of the focus is on this language. Now, you can use it on the client side to do animation, sorting, I'm sure you have seen a lot of stuff on the web. And most of it is done on the client. And, okay. Not only this, the JavaScript has been extended. Initially, it was invented to just do, like, let's say, form validation. Like somebody in the page asking for, let's say, age of the age or date of birth. And basically, you need to do some validation that the date of birth, for example, at least it should be less than or equal today, but not in the future. So in the past, before JavaScript, you have to go all the way to the server to do this simple check. And this is very expensive because sometimes the client is in Doha and the server is in Boston or somewhere very, very far, and there is oceans. There are oceans and continents between the server and the client. So just for simple thing, we don't want to make all that long trip to do simple things. So they said, okay, let me bring JavaScript and let me do some validation on the client side. Now, the users, they get, for example, their, let's say, the list of products, and they want to see which one is sort them from the least expensive to the most expensive, for example. So in the past, you have to go all the way to the server to do the sorting for you and bring back the results sorted. Now with JavaScript, you can do the sorting on the client side. And gradually, this poor JavaScript, more and more responsibilities placed on its shoulder, until it became very, very, very critical language. Now, when the services movement came to existence, then we want to call these services from the web page. How do we call them? How do we get information from services? Again, the JavaScript. So you can see gradually it became very, very important player in the web development space. So when you see any web development ad, there will be JavaScript there. Not only this, the poor JavaScript story did not stop here. They push it now to the server side. So instead of using these other languages, Java and .NET and Perl and others, the poor developers, they say, we don't have any time to do anything except coding. Give us some break. At least let's unify the language. So instead of learning Java to do the programming on the server side and learning JavaScript to do the programming on the client side, they say, why not use the same language in both sides? Okay? And that's what's happening. That is the big movement that is happening. And this movement is materialized by a famous technology called Node.js. And we will try to also focus on this. So maybe we will introduce this so you have at least two flavors where you don't use Java on the JavaScript on the server side. And then we focus more on the Node.js, which uses JavaScript on the server side. Is clear? Not only this, even the poor database. The poor database will used to be tabular, tables, where you store information. Okay, even this one, they did not leave it alone, and basically there is this a big NoSQL movement where data is no longer tabular. The data is in a JavaScript format called JSON. So you can see now JavaScript plays a major role end-to-end, from the client to the server to the database. And if you know this language, you can deal with all these layers. Is clear? And here, the servers are basically crying out. They are complaining. Millions of users, thousands, millions, sometimes millions, sometimes millions concurrently. So they say we do too much. And this guy, they have like, what is it, i7, 16 gigabytes of memory, and they just doing rendering and doing small job, while this guy is doing lots of work. It's unfair, isn't it? So said, okay, let us try to reduce the load on the server and let the client generate the page. So in the past, like these guys at Qatar University, this page was generated on the server side, most likely generated on the server side. We don't want to do that. We just want to get the data, the raw data, and generate the page on the client side. This is a big movement called the SPA, which is single page application. All right. So in here, we move in from client-server architecture, or sorry, the MVC. Remember the MVC architecture? Model view controller, the way we develop application. We separate the model from the view, from the controller. But still, it is unfair. The client is doing most of this. Sorry, the server is doing most of this. So we're trying to make it more balanced, where on the server side, we just want to have services to provide the raw data, and we want the client to build the page on the client side. Is clear? So JavaScript became so important language, and this gives a room for many tools and frameworks to flourish. So many libraries out there to help you build more sophisticated web applications. We will focus on the most popular ones, which are jQuery and Angular.js. And we will try to move to Angular 2, which is still under development. It's a very different from the initial version. It is a bit futuristic, but it is much better, because the JavaScript also went through a big evolution and changes. The latest version of JavaScript is called ECMA 6, version 6, and they are also working on version 7. So what I want to say here, we'll try to cover or focus on the latest developments on this. And you can see from this discussion where the focus will be on JavaScript, both on the client side and on the server side. Is the story clear? So this is not a repeat of 356. I'm just telling you, it's not a repeat. It will be different. No Java at all, 0. Okay, it will be JavaScript on both sides and ASP.NET. And there are many tools, many frameworks that we will see. Plus, it's not only the technology, also the architecture and the patterns and the design. So we will see, because the challenge in the web now, you can see the challenge is there are applications, web applications that are supposed to handle millions of concurrent users or thousands of concurrent users. And they're also supposed to handle a huge volume of data. So there's a problem of, what do we call this problem? Scalability, concurrency, yes. But the property that the server must have, the server must be scalable, which means the server, you can add more resources to it to handle more load or more volumes of data. So we will see what architectures we need to make our servers scalable. Also, the users are getting exposed to very well-designed, professionally designed applications, and in terms of user experience, they have much higher expectations. So the user interface and the user experience also very important. So we will see how we make our we will see some principles that we need to follow when we are building our web application, our web applications, so they have a good user experience. They provide a good user experience. Not necessarily fancy things with flash and colors and things jumping up and down. That's not what we mean. Not something where we need some kind of artistic people or movie people. No, it's more some basic principles that we follow. For example, giving feedback. Whenever the user makes some action, you tell them if the action is long running, you give them some visual clue that something is going on. Don't leave them wondering, is the server doing something? Should I refresh? Or should, and if something goes wrong, you tell them. So there are some principles we need to learn and follow when we design and build our applications. What else is there? I think we kind of covered the scope. This is the scope of the course. It might, those of you who did 356, it might sound, oh, that's a nice repeat. It's not a nice repeat, it's different. Maybe just you are on the lucky side. You might have a good background, but it is different. It is different, more deeper, and more state of the art. Even myself, I'd be pushing myself very hard, working very hard with you and staying ahead of you, because I'm not familiar with everything I have just said. There are things that only 2-3 years old. And there are things that are on the makeup as we go. So we will be all working hard to catch up and to really, because this space has really changed in the last let's say 3-5 years, a big change. So even if you have seen this before, it is different story now. Yes, please, some question? There was. Nobody kicked us out? Alhamdulillah, it's good. Okay. So is clear so far? So let me now go through a little bit more the syllabus. So is web development, if you hear now the word web development, it makes a bit of sense. It's an umbrella under which many things goes. And we will see as we move forward. This description, I think, was written maybe 5-6 years. Please don't read it. I put it there because we are obliged to put it as per the catalog. But we will not see ODBC, GDBC. This is, if you want to see, some of this stuff kind of outdated. It is still, we will have scripting and so on, but the course description is not the best. Now this is the learning outcomes. By the end of this course, you will be able to design web applications using modern architectures and design patterns, particularly MVC, SPA, and other architectures that we will see. Then construct. Construct here means design, build, program them, test them, deploy them. That's what construct means. Using different, we will not see one way, at least we will see two ways of doing things, so you can compare and appreciate and kind of discuss in which scenario this way is suitable and other ways that are suitable. There are many ways, which we will not have time to cover, of course, not all of them. We will focus on 2 ways. On the server side, Node.js, what is it? Node.js and ASP.NET MVC, the latest version, which is 6, just released few weeks ago. I don't know if it's really released, but anyway, everything is there. All the pieces are there. Officially released or not, I'm not sure. Now on the client side, we will see jQuery, just lightweight way, and AngularJS. Even those of you who've seen AngularJS is a different AngularJS. It's a version 2 that. Yeah, it's not yet, but it is shaping. It is shaping. Yeah. But the reason why we move in there, because JavaScript is undergoing a major change, and using this it is more object-oriented than before. So what I want to say is most likely you will not make use of these skills immediately. Maybe you will use them. Some of you might not use them immediately. Some of them might use them immediately. But let's say in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. So you better, although some of the things are still kind of undercooking, you better go with the new rather than invest efforts with the old. Okay? Yes. So there are server-side and client-side. Server-side frameworks and client-side frameworks. Then another major aspect is how to keep the bad guys away from your web application, because these web applications are very critical. Like for example, for us as QU, we cannot imagine QU without Banner or Blackboard. It basically cannot exist. Or even worse, QNB as an example, it cannot exist as an entity or as an organization without its online system. So, and there are, mutarabbisin everywhere. So you need to have you need to be aware. As developer, you need to be aware of common threats and how you can kind of protect your application from them. Okay? That is very important aspect. Then you will learn these skills and apply them individually. It is very important to build your own skills. There is no free rides, plus to work on them in a group. So in terms of assessment, I think there will be, let's say, 4 assignments. These assignments will be focused on a particular aspect of as we go along, while the project will be more comprehensive and a little bit larger size. So you will apply a different scale. And then finally, you will do a bit of exploring what's coming on the pipeline. This is a practical field, but still, the academic people and the research people, they still jump into it and address some of the issues and problems. And that's, as a master course, you also need to have this aspect as part of the course. Are the learning outcomes clear? What you are expect at the end, what you expect to get? All right. Then comes to the coverage. So week 1, kind of not so good because of this change in time. But anyway, we will catch up. I'll make some slides available. Hopefully, if this is recorded well, I'll make it available. And then I will talk more, give a very concise summary next session, and have extra office hours for those who need more discussion. Okay, then we will start with the basic, which is the client-side web interface technologies, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in a lightweight. Just introduction, 2 weeks we will spend on this. Then we will see some web UI frameworks. So as professional developers, so people don't usually go and use immediately, for example, CSS, raw CSS. They use some existing web UI, web user interface frameworks, such as Bootstrap, and there is another new tool on the market, which is the material design from Google. So we will have an idea that how these web frameworks or web UI frameworks can help us build web applications that has especially this aspect called responsive application. What do we mean by responsive? Yes, thank you very much. This is very important because we all experience this. We go and access the web from different devices with different resolution and screen sizes, and we want the user experience, remember the user experience, not to be distorted. We want to maintain a good user experience cross platforms. If you want to do this on your own, using your own CSS skills, especially if you've never seen it, in 2 weeks' time you just learn about it, it's very, very hard. So that's why, luckily, we have some open source frameworks from people who have been doing this for many, many, many years. Like Bootstrap came from Twitter, and Material Design came from the Google. Okay, and then we have some web tools. As I mentioned before, JavaScript is becoming a major platform, a major language, and many libraries are out there to help you do your work. So there are tools to help you bring the libraries you need. Instead of you downloading them manually, there are tools to help you do this. So we will get an idea about these tools. So the first 3 weeks will be more on the technologies to build the client side. No programming on the server side, just the client side, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and the UI tools and frameworks. Then we, sorry, that's the first 3 weeks. Then we have another 2 weeks in more deeper JavaScript, where we will see these famous libraries, jQuery and AngularJS. We'll spend 2 weeks in there. And then finally, we will start looking on the server side. And in the server side, as I mentioned, we'll look at ASP.NET MVC and Node.js. This one uses C#, which is quite similar, but a bit more advanced than Java, and Node.js, which is JavaScript framework to build dynamic content and to build services on the server side. Okay, then we will come back to the client side. Then we will come back to the client side and see how we can make use of these services from the client side. Back again to JavaScript and back to the frameworks we learned. We see how we can make use of the JavaScript. Finally, in the last few weeks, we will look at how we interact with databases, how we read and write to databases, not only the relational, but also the NoSQL database. So we'll see both. And finally, some time we will spend on the security, the threats, the main security threats. I keep forgetting those top 10. What do we call them? Top 10. They have a name. Web security threats. Yes, OWASP. This one. Hopefully we will try to get somebody maybe from ICT Qatar if we can, or some people specialized in this, and they can tell us a little bit more about this. OWASP is very famous top 10 threats that the developers need to be aware of them, and they give you strategies how to basically avoid them. That's it. This is what the course is about. Any questions? Of course, there is also assessment. Assessment, as you can see, 80% is on design and development. 10% you will have some review of some papers related to web development. We might, this is the first time, by the way, delivering this course. First time this course is offered at QU. So maybe I'm still thinking about this. Maybe the security part could be made up as research-based papers. We'll see. Some aspects that will nicely complement the course will be through a review and presentation of research trends and research topics related to the web development. The final exam and the midterm exam, again, you will do some development in class, but of course it will be much, much simpler than your homework and your project, because you will have 2 hours or so to do it. So if you've been doing well in the assignments and the project, this is very, very easy, not a problem at all. And of course there will be a little bit of conceptual things. I'm not sure where this 8.5 came from. No, it's supposed to be 5. Small part, just some concepts that you need to be familiar with. Week 8. Oh, sorry. I read it's 8.5. Okay, that's good. All right, is clear so far? That's it. What else do you want to say? Okay, in terms of tools, there are a lot of tools that we will be using. Let me maybe bring now. Whatever I explained, I kind of put it nicely in this presentation that I will be sharing with you. Okay, in terms of tools, I'll be sharing this with you. In terms of tools, this is one of the best tools. You can use any tool. These are just recommendations. WebStorm 10, this one it helps you write HTML, CSS, JavaScript. It's a very, very good tool. The good news is for students and academic use, it's free. You can just go to that URL, put your QU email, not other emails, and you get a free license to use. For the ASP.NET MVC, we will use Visual Studio 2015. Download it for free also. For design, and also you have to design, like you will have maybe class diagrams, maybe database diagram, maybe some kind of diagrams. You will use Visual Paradigm, and I will send you the license by email, the license and the link where to download it. And there will be other tools that I will tell you as we go. Okay. Now, for the development, the content of the course, your assignment, your project will be done through GitHub. I will introduce this, those of you who don't know it. Basically, I already created the kind of an organization for this course. The GitHub people, generous, they give free licenses, which free repositories. So each of you will have your own private repository, and you will have a repository per group as well. So you will have 2 repositories, one for your assignment and one for your project. And also the content of the course will go into them. I will send you an email with clear instructions what to do. If you have not created an account before, you will create one, and then you send me that account. If you already have an account, I will ask you kindly to rename the username to be maybe your first name or surname. I will have to see. Hopefully we have unique ones. Maybe first name will be hard to find because it has to be unique across GitHub. Well, the problem, the QUID, maybe QUID and first name would be nice. Because sometimes when I'm looking at the team and the QUID, I have to do another lookup from my experience before. So it's better if it is on the username and I can see it. I can see it. So maybe like the QUID and the first name, or QUID dash first name. What do you think? For the username, GitHub, yes. You can, if it doesn't create too much inconvenience, If it is like a meaningful name, that's fine. Yeah, it is okay. If you already have, it's fine. But if you have, but it has like kind of some weird name, like Mr. Cool or something, then I will kindly ask you to rename it or create a new one. It's just for me and for others in your team to easily recognize you. Plus, with GitHub, we also hopefully we can overcome that problem of free riders, because in GitHub it shows the activities, who did what and when, and also you can actively you don't delay things. I can kind of monitor from distance that things are going well. We will discover it. That's another, by the way, this is another really very, very important learning outcome, because this is how development is done in real world. Nobody is doing it by writing code and sending by email or even Dropbox, which is very, very hard to manage. In here, very nice system to manage things. And we will see it as we move forward. No NetBeans, no Eclipse. So in here, WebStorm is mainly for HTML. In the beginning, we will use WebStorm. Also, Visual Studio is also very good. Visual Studio is very good with HTML, CSS, JavaScript. They have very nice tools. Or you can use Notepad if you want, but tools, of course, makes it easier for you to develop. Notepad++. But I think WebStorm is really, really good. You will see, really good. It has whatever syntax highlighting. It has code completion. If there are errors, you can format your code nicely. You can just right-click and say format. It's formatted nicely. You can do refactoring. If you rename something, it renames it everywhere where it is referred to. It has a lot of capabilities. It's a commercial tool, but they give us for free. It's very nice tool. So no Java here, no NetBeans, no Eclipse. Java is out from this course. So if you are familiar with Visual Studio, you can do everything. Visual Studio is also a very top quality IDE. Honestly, it's much better than NetBeans and Eclipse. Much better, way better, in my opinion. Okay, is that all right? Now this is for content delivery, no Blackboard. Blackboard we will open it because otherwise university will be upset. But we will just add a link to go to the GitHub. And the GitHub, the good thing is you just click the refresh, or there is a command to refresh periodically, and you get all the new content. So that's how we will, inshallah, manage it. And I will give some introduction next time to GitHub, those of you who are not familiar with it. There is a command line that you don't need to, although the professional people use the command line, not the graphical user interface one. But to get started, you can use the graphical interface. It's also very good. And the tools, let me just explain it one more time. The tools are there to help you, not to slow you down or to frustrate you. Use the tool that make the job easier for you. Any tool is okay. Here, this is just state-of-the-art tools, the best tools people are using in the industry, professional people are using. Now, for discussion, some of you already know, we'll use this Piazza. I think it's spelled this way. I will send you the link. I'm just waiting for the class to kind of stabilize by tomorrow, and then I'll set up all of this and send you, because the numbers, mashallah, is growing. I think so far we have 20 students, but I'm not sure what will happen. Okay, so in here, so everything will be on GitHub, and I will send you instructions on what to do to get in there. All right, so this is if you really want to do well, attend, read before you come, because a lot of sessions will be really demo driven. explain quickly the concept and show you how it is done. And I hope no one will say, oh, you didn't go through the slides. I will not go always through the slides. I can explain things. Slides are only for you as a reference. And hopefully you read them and you go through the examples much before. Being a practical course, there is no textbook. I really hope they did not order the textbook, but I'm not sure. The strange thing, nobody consulted me on this course for some strange reason. I'm not sure. It was decided later that I will be doing it. But anyway, somebody ordered some textbook. I hope they did not order it. I hope the bookstore did not get it. Anyway, there is kind of a textbook. I don't think you need to get it. Okay. Just for formality, because syllabus must have a textbook. This is the textbook, but you don't really need it. It's optional. I'll be giving you a lot of resources as a professional, a lot of resources that are relevant for the topic we're covering, plus the QU library, like the ebooks. There are a lot of good ebooks chapters. I'll be digging them and sending you the link, or maybe if it's allowed, I can put the chapter on the GitHub, because it's secure. Only us can show it. By the way, the GitHub stuff will be, for example, your repository. Only you and myself will be able to see what's in there. Nobody will see. Your group. These are private repositories, not public ones. So you will get your own private repository, because for education, you get a free one. And by the way, if you want to have your own repositories, you can subscribe. You can log in and create an account with your QU, and you make a request, and they can make your repository private. They give you a couple of repositories for free. Okay. That's it. What else I want to say? Okay. For Node.js, we will see what tools we will be using as we go. More tools. I will let you know about them as we move forward. Any questions so far? Is clear? Manageable? Scary? Manageable. Okay. And now, for the project, what do you think? The project, should we try to go for a unified one, or should we each group choose whatever they want? Well, there are plus and minus for each one. The plus for a unified one, I can kind of work with you in a parallel, or maybe to like take the best submission and improve it and make it a model solution you can learn from further by comparing your submission with kind of the model one. That can give you another good learning opportunity. But you are constrained on some project that you might not see relevant, or you might not have strong motivation for it. While if you choose your own, maybe you have much higher, stronger motivation. But I'll be there, of course. I'll guide you, give you feedback, and so on. But I don't think I'll be able to do a model solution for each project, especially if we have, let's say, 6 teams or 7 teams. So what do you think? Sorry?
Even that's the first time you prefer to go with the same uniform.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I'm thinking, I will have some couple of, yeah, yes, please.
Make it unified, but each one maybe have a unique design.
Oh, for sure, yes,
So
yeah.
it's not exactly the same.
Definitely, yes. Well, only the requirements will be given to you. But what I mean, let's say we have, 3 stages. So to make it manageable, we don't keep it to the end. And we want to get feedback as we go. Not at the end, oh, you didn't do well, or you did well. So in the beginning, of course, all of you will have your own freedom kind of doing it. And I'll be with you as a customer. You come with some design, you show it, we discuss it during the office hours and give you feedback to refine it further. Then, I guess in phase 2 and 3, you will have some kind of base solution. You will throw what you have done and adopt. If you are convinced, you don't need to. But in phase 2 and 3, you will be given a model solution that you can switch to and throw yours, and then you move forward. Yeah. So I'll be exploring a couple of suggestions, and then I'll bring them to your attention, and then you can discuss them, and you can pick up something where hopefully could be of interest to most of you. If you have ideas, please feel free and encouraged to share them with me. We can consider them and work on them, make them as a project. Okay. So let's go for unified one, and I'll have some suggestions. You are welcome to email me if you have any suggestions or ideas, and then we move forward with that. All right, any questions so far? So let us just, let me now kind of start the first lecture, and all what we have seen is just high-level introduction to the course. Yes, please. It is the future. It is the future. To the extent when you see mainstream technologies like Java trying to adopt features of their Node.js in their platforms, in their product, that's it. They know that the ground is shaking under their feet, so they are reacting. Sorry?
Node.js reached embedded systems and desktop.
And yes, you're right, yes.
There are some desktop application developed
Using Node.js, yes. You're right, yes. Even tools, as we will see, some of the development tools heavily use Node.js. So it's not only limited. Now the good thing is why it is very, very attractive. Beside being performance-wise, architecture-wise, very different than traditional web platform. Traditional web platform has evolved from this old era of static content, and basically the dynamic parts kind of added as the need became apparent, and the services added on top. So they have some kind of baggage that they are dragging with them. While this Node.js from the ground up has been designed this new movement of services and new movement of dynamic from day one. So the architecture is much more flexible, performance-wise much better. And for developers, it's also very attractive, because you only need to focus on one skill and go deep into it and use it in both sides. This is a big, big plus. It's less defragmented, like currently, like for example, people taking care of QU website, they have to know PHP and JavaScript and jQuery and Angular. If they are using Angular, I'm sure they are using jQuery. All of this, too many things at the same time. It has a huge future. Plus, most of the cloud providers, even Microsoft, Azure, or all the cloud providers, they provide Node.js as a platform where you can deploy your applications. So it's not a kind of a little, some efforts of some few kids around the corner. It's a very mature. And it is, I think last time I read it, it is version 4.0. It reached first time stable release. Before it was beta, like just beta release for a couple of years, but now it reached a level of maturity that is a stable release, guaranteed to be stable for a couple of months, like 18 months or so. So what I want to say here, it is not a waste. Any effort invested in learning it and exploring it, it is worthwhile. Okay. Comparing ASP.NET. You can, of course. Here is just to show in this ASP.NET, is just to show the idea of generating content on the server side, where the Node.js mainly focuses on services where the page itself is generated on the client. So, and just to give you some base where you can see the comparison between mainstream development technologies from well-established technology providers like Microsoft and open source based open source based technology. Okay, so it's just to give you. It won't be very nice to just have one way. At least, because of, if time allows, at least two ways to do the server side. So you will be able to compare and appreciate it more. Plus, maybe in here you have, if you are a Microsoft, primarily a Microsoft focused company, most likely you will continue with ASP.NET. But if you are starting from scratch or starting anew, maybe most startups and most new companies, they go with Node.js. It's more more fashionable. We will see. We'll have a taste of both, so we can be able to appreciate both and compare both ways. Okay, any other questions, concerns? Okay, SPA is an architecture. Single page architecture. Architecture, you can realize an architecture is a way you divide your application, how you break down your application into components, and how you make these components interact. Now, how do you implement the actual design? You can use any of them. You can build SPA application using ASP.NET MVC, even PHP. You can use any implementation you want. It is a mindset. It is a way of thinking and designing your application, where basically you offload or you give a bit of relief to the server side and push as much as possible to the client side. And then when you load the page, you have one page loaded in the beginning, and then you keep refreshing parts of the page. You never refresh the whole page at once. So the page becomes kind of a shell where it has placeholders, and whenever you need something, you just go and refresh parts of the page, not the whole page. Like, for example, in your Gmail, when there is a new, it's related. Ajax is one of the techniques used to interact with the server side asynchronously, without the user noticing that there is some freeze on the page. The page does not lock and block. Asynchronously in the background. For example, when you are composing an email in Gmail, the page is still active, and if there is a new email, it shows up. And when a new email arrives, not the whole page refreshes. Just one email gets added to the top of your list. Yes, please. Yes, yeah. Is you mean this the web as an application? Yes. It is now very much widely used, where it heavily relies on this partial page refresh. You never refresh the whole page, and you don't construct the whole page. You construct the page on the client side. So inshallah we will see this. But the realization of this architecture could be used in any technologies. But some technologies it's much easier to do than others. You can achieve this using PHP, but much more work compared to, as we will see, ASP.NET. The reason why also I choose it, it's very powerful, at the same time very simple. We will see this. Any other? Okay, just another 5 minutes and let you go. I just want to. Okay. So we kind of explained some of this. Just to remind you, so web applications are becoming very critical because they help automate business processes. So it's no longer just providing content. You can use web applications to automate how things work inside an organization, even between organizations. And web applications are becoming very vital for the organization to achieve its mission. It's not just something very secondary or not important. It's a fundamental. It's very critical. So, and they have some characteristics. These are the most important characteristics. First of all, they typically support a large number of users, as we witness these days, especially if it is a successful application. Expect to have a large number of users, and sometimes also a large volume of data coming in and out of the application. Second characteristic is you have more demanding users. They want better user experience, they want good response time. So these are constraints on you when you are developing applications. And because they are mission critical and because they are important, there are people who try to target them. The least is to embarrass that organization or to steal information or to cause harm or to do some denial of service attacks. So they must be secure, they must be highly available and scalable, and they must have a good user experience. It's not a luxury, it is a must. That's why when you build such applications, you can't just open your editor and start writing your code. You have to really think about it, try to follow best practices, try to architect your application, try to really do it based on some principles, not just ad hoc. Okay? And typically, you break it down into components, and these components can be distributed across multiple servers to handle the huge volume. So whenever you have a large volume, you have to have distributed application. So one way to break down your application, one famous architecture is the MVC, the model, view, and controller. Although it is kind of the evolution of MVC is the SPA architecture, and we will see this in more details later on. So first of all, just to remind you that because of this quality attribute the web application must have, you must consider having a good architecture for your application. So the tradition, and just to remind you what is an architecture, is the components that will make up the application and how these components interact, how they are connected. This is what we mean by an architecture. The fundamental architecture is, of course, client-server, but this is kind of the traditional way when the web starts. We have the client server, the poor server does all the work, generates some content, the client just renders it. That's the story. And then as we moved forward, even we started looking at it a bit differently and breaking it into, as I mentioned, three major components. The model that does the actual work and the computation and, for example, reading and writing from data store, doing calculations and algorithms and so on. The view is the one that presents the results or collect inputs from users. Whenever you want the user to give you some information, you provide a view. And then the controller is like the boss. It receives the request from the client, and then it gives it to the model, to the appropriate model to do the work. So this way, you can divide physically. You can divide. You can put typically the view and the controller on one server, for example, and the model in another server. And you can replicate. You can have multiple copies of the view and the controller and multiple copies of the model. So you can scale. That's the only way. Like Google, the way they scale, it's not because they have some supercomputer that nobody has except them. That is in big room, like Burj Khalifa data center. It's not that. It's normal mainstream servers that work collaboratively as if they look like one server. You go to Google, it's one, you think there is one server, but behind it is a farm, server farm. So for you to have that architecture, for you to be able to distribute, you must architect your application. If it is one piece, you cannot distribute it easily. If you are mixing the model with the presentation, with the view, it's not easy. It's not as easy to scale it. Okay, this I already explained. Like what's this is just a reminder what architecture means. When you hear the word architecture, that's what it means. Inshallah, let me come back to this when everybody comes back. Next time I will just do kind of 10 minutes review of this, and then I will continue on this, and we will start looking into the HTML, CSS, and basic JavaScript. Thank you very much. I will make this available, plus hopefully if the video comes up nice, make it also available. And then I will send you maybe by Friday, hopefully, or Saturday, or the weekend kind of, send you some instructions how to set up your Piazza account, and so you can get started. Then also start looking at your team members, maybe 3 per team, so you can start early looking into your project. Okay, all the best. If there are any questions, feel free to email me, and we can further discuss it. Thank you, and I appreciate the effort you made to make it today. Thanks.